to the viewers. Today's look back is going to be on the Count of Monte Cristo movie, specifically the 2022 movie starring Jim Caviezel as the primary character Edmond Dantes. Although the main story centers around revenge, the idea that God is ever present in the book stands as a main focus in the story as a whole. Originally a book written by Alexandre Dumas in 1846, The Count of Monte Cristo stood out as an adventure story along the same vein as Dumas's other works, The Three Musketeers and The Man in the Iron Mask, both of which were later adapted into movies. But let's talk about the film of The Count of Monte Cristo. The main story is set around the time when Napoleon escaped from the Isles of Elba, with rumors that he has supporters within France who are still loyal to Napoleon. It is here that Edmond is tasked with delivering a letter for Napoleon, unaware of its contents and how it could indict him as a traitor to his country. Edmond, after all, is just a humble sailor, starting out with a fiancée named Mercedes, who his best friend and later enemy, Ferdinand Mondego, his best friend and crewmate, covets out of jealousy and desire. The plot speeds up as Mondego and Danglars have Dantes accused of being a Bonapartist and then thrown in the popular French prison, the Château d'If. It is here where Edmond spends a good 7 years of his life being tortured mentally and physically whipped and tortured every day. But it is here that he begins to pray to God and ask him to bring him justice for the betrayal he has experienced. But it is also here in this prison where he meets his mentor, Abbé Faria, who plans their escape by building a tunnel under the Château d'If and plans to bring both their escape to fruition. It is here that Faria teaches Edmond Dantes how to read and write 7 languages. History, culture, and mathematics, chemistry, and medicine, and science are all staples that he learns eventually. Unfortunately, Faria dies because of the collapse of this tunnel, but it is upon his dying breath that Faria tells Edmond of the treasure of Spada found on the Isles of Monte Cristo. Faria dies, and seeing his opportunity to escape the prison, Edmond switches places with Faria, having taken his place in the body bag. Edmond wastes no time swimming to the nearest landmass, where he runs into some Genoese smugglers who rescue him and make them one of them. Edmond befriends one of the smugglers, who he recruits to help him recover the treasure on the island of Monte Cristo. He later uses the treasure to purchase the island and buy his title of Count from the Tuscan government. Having sworn vengeance on Danglars and Mondego and Villefort, the men who had him accused of the crime he didn't commit, traveling as the Abbé Busoni, Dantes finds Caderousse, who regrets not intervening in Dantes' arrest. Caderousse informs him that Mercedes eventually resigned herself to marrying his former friend Ferdinand, and that Dantes' father died of starvation, and that his old employer Morel tried in vain to secure Dantes' release and tend after his father in his absence, but is now on the brink of being bankrupt. He learns Danglars and Ferdinand have prospered greatly, and Danglars is now a baron, and Ferdinand is now the Count de Morcerf. It is from here Edmond plans his revenge and buys the mansion of some random man and has the treasure moved. He presents himself to the world as the Count and wins over the favor of the people. In Rome at carnival time, Dantes befriends Viscount Albert de Morcerf, the son of Mercedes and Ferdinand. He arranges for Albert to be captured by the bandit Luigi Vampa and rescues the boy, earning his trust. Albert introduces the Count to Parisian high society. Dantes, in his guise as the Count, meets Mercedes for the first time in 23 years, and eventually makes the acquaintance of Danglars, Ferdinand, and Villefort. From here, Edmond exacts his revenge, forcing a confession out of Danglars, and he manipulates the gambling houses and banks to force Ferdinand Mondego into debt, and ultimately leads to Mercedes leaving him for the Count of Monte Cristo, who she deduces through her own intuition as Edmond Dantes. It is here that we get to the duel of the movie, where Albert learns through defending Ferdinand that Edmond Dantes is his father, which makes him switch sides after Ferdinand tried to use him as a meat shield. Having killed Ferdinand Mondego in a duel, and having exacted his revenge, Mercedes, Albert, and Edmond finally reunite, and the movie ends. And what did I have to think about this movie? Well, I had previously read the book following up this movie and gotten a good in-depth look at the movie as a whole from a literary perspective. And as I understand it, the movie definitely holds up to this day. You could watch this movie just clean slate and not know anything about it previous to the movie being made, and just watch this movie as it is and understand that it's a complete story that doesn't continue, doesn't have any sequels to it, and is just a movie straight up based off a novel. And I want to say that this book has inspired me to learn more languages, definitely. But honestly, it just shows what people can do when they're cornered in a tight spot. So I just want to say that this movie was really good, and that I like it as a whole, and that I would recommend it to people if I was recommending movies to people. And that's all I have to say about this movie. All right, see you in the next one.